جامعة بغداد، دكتور سرمد ووحدة التعليم المستمر، دكتور زهراء، ووحدة الانسينا دكتور سليمة ودكتور وفاء. نطلع عليكم من جديد في موضوع جديد ان شاء الله يكون مهم. هذا الموضوع حبينا نختار انا ودكتوره بسمة زميلتي من الفرنسا السريريه. ان الحقيقه هو نيو ميثودز، خاصه بالناس المهتمه بالسوشيال فارماسي والفارماسي براكتس. بما انه احنا اثنيناتنا عندنا خبره بالموضوع، فراح نحكي لكم عن الاكسبيرينس مالتنا بالموضوع. نتمنى الباحثين الجدد انه من ينظرون للكواليتيف ريسيرش يصير عندهم على الاقل فكره. يعني احنا هنا هو ما راح نقدر نغطي كل الموضوع، بس at least يعني we'll have overview نقدر نسميه. فهو introductory webinar. It's not in details or in depth. So today we'll talk about qualitative study. On introduce myself. I'm Dr. Aziz. I'm faculty member at the University of Baghdad College of Pharmacy. I have PhD in pharmaceutical socioeconomic from the University of Iowa, the United States. So today we'll talk about introduction about the qualitative research, and also we'll have some idea what's the main differences between qualitative and quantitative studies. We all familiar with quantitative, but we are not familiar with the qualitative. That's why we want to introduce qualitative. So I will introduce some methods of data collection for qualitative method, and I will go over some sampling methods. Dr. Bessma will talk about the analysis and the coding and the other parts, inshallah. So first of all, why we need to use qualitative? Qualitative is different than quantitative. When we are familiar with the quantitative, when we need to measure incidence, we want to generalize information, we go for quantitative. While for the qualitative, we need to hear the experience of people, the perception of people, the comment of people. So how can we listen to them? How can we understand in depth their experience, their information? We need to use qualitative. So basically qualitatives, usually we need to meet the person, the participant. We need to meet the interviewees, either through the direct interview, phone interview, or focus group. We need to listen to them. So we'll have in-depth information, more detailed experience data. So the sample of qualitative study is not large as quantitative. We usually have purposive small sample. The sample could be up to 30. So the sample size is not large as quantitative, while in quantitative we need large sample size to generalize our findings. While in qualitative, we need to reach saturation point. Saturation point means when we hear the same information again and again, and there will be no new information, so we can stop interviewing. When reach the saturation point, when there is no new information, we can stop the interviewing or data collection. Unlike the quantitative analysis, we are all familiar with the quantitative statistical analysis. But when we come to the qualitative, there will be no numbers, no statistical analysis. We will have something either content analysis, or we have thematic analysis. We will deal with codes, we will deal with quotation, we'll deal with text, not numbers, text, people, sentences. So, for example, in the data, in the quantitative, we'll get numbers. Data in the qualitative will get text. How can we ask which type of question we use for qualitative study? we usually use open-ended question. We let the interviewees talk, the participant talk by asking why, when, tell me about your experience. So these are open-ended questions and they have follow-up questions. While for the quantitative, we usually in the survey or in the data collection, we use closed-ended questions, either Likert scale or yes or no or binary. So there will be specific closed-ended for quantitative, or for qualitative, we let the participant talk freely, experience, and express their experience. So as we mentioned, there will be no numbers. We are not talking about large number of people. We are not talking about p-value. There will be no p-value, no statistical analysis. So don't surprise if you read qualitative study without statistical analysis. And so sometimes you will say, why we need it? Mostly we need qualitative study for exploring a new discipline or exploring new concept. If we have no idea about the topic, or we need to understand the situation before we do the quantitative. For example, we interviewed participant pharmacist working in pharmaceutical company with my diploma student Mina. It was substandard and falsified medicine. So before we go into quantitative, we needed to understand the situation. We need to listen to the people expert in the field before we go to analyze our result. So qualitative, there are sample size. This is not generalized like the qualitative. We usually take small sample. We need to understand the concept of this topic. The good things about qualitative, we can have in-depth information we can understand from the non-verbal communication with the interviewees, while the negative point or the pros or the cons, sorry, it's small sample size, we cannot generalize the data. Unlike the quantitative, in the quantitative, we cannot listen to the people. We usually have closed-ended questions, but the good things, we can generalize the data. Our sample size can generalize our findings. Let's go back to the quantitative methods. You remember all the methods we know, the epidemiological methods, the interventions, clinical, such as clinical trials, those are quantitative. Even the observation study, cohort study, retrospective and prospective, case control, cross-sectional, all these methods in this chart are quantitative methods. We collect numbers, we have our sample size, we do statistical analysis, we can generalize our findings. These are quantitative. So the qualitative is not in this slide, basically. So the qualitative relies on different way of data collection. The most important one is interviews and focus group. Interviews, we can communicate with the interviewees or participants and hear their emotions, experience, their relationships. For example, when we met with when we interviewed the representatives of pharmaceutical companies, we heard their experience with the substandards. Also, we had another study with the Iraqi national pharmaceutical industry representative. When we met them with Dr. Kauta, we heard from their experience in the field what they are experiencing. So they tell us their story, they tell us their challenges, they tell us their experience. So this is the good thing. You hear the story from the person who is in the field, experienced in the field. So we'll have much details about the information. It's not like you just survey people and you are not meeting them in person. For other methods, we have, as we mentioned, we have one-to-one interview. A focus group when we meet more than one person. For example, we meet 5 to 8, sometimes 12 people at the same time. You just sit with them and start asking one by one and let them discuss the idea. And it's like the discussion group. They call it focus group. Those are the two main methods used. Sometimes we use open-ended question as comment at the end of survey. Sometimes we have record. Sometimes we have news from the media. But those the most. Sometimes we have observation. We go to the field and sit and write our observation. So the most common one is interviews and focus group. We have 3 types of questions. Either structured. Structure, we cannot change it. We have it as it is, mostly used for survey and quantitative. We usually use semi-structured questions for the interviews and focus group. Semi-structures means your questions, they are open-ended and they have follow-up or probe questions. You ask questions, for example, what's your experience about substandard and falsified? For example, they say they are not good for the company. You can ask them, could you give me an example about your company experience with this? So you have the flexibility to ask them follow-up questions, to have more details about their first questions. So this is semi-structured. While unstructured is less commonly used. Sometimes they use it when we don't have interview guide. Usually when you go to the interview or focus, we have interview guide. We have questions. Sometimes we ask probe or follow-up questions. They are not in the list, but they are semi-structured. So we have interview guide. In the unstructured, we go to the meeting without any question. Just say, tell us about your experience with a substandard falsified. Let them talk, and that's it, without questions. You just record their answer. So the most common one in the interviews, it's the semi-structured questions. So semi-structured could be mostly open-ended. Sometimes we use closed-ended questions when we need to affirm the answer. We will have follow-up questions. We will have probe questions. So this is the most common one for the qualitative interviews and focus group. Unstructured may be used. It's less common, but sometimes could be used. So for the first way of data collection, which is the interviews, we need to have a plan before we go to the interview. We need to understand how many interviewers. We are the interviewers. The participants are the interviewees. We need to understand how many. For example, we are 2. One is asking questions and one writing notes, for example. We need to take appointment. We need to understand how long we have time. Do we have 30 minutes? Do we have 15? Do we have 1 hour? We cannot have more than 1 hour. So if it's focus group, we can have, for example, 2 hours. How many interviewees? How many participants? Where we are going to meet? You need to prepare yourself. You need to send your interview guide to the participant before the interview, so they will prepare their answer. Sometimes you don't want people to just take time for thinking. So I prefer to send them the interview guide beforehand, before the time of the interview. Basic requirement: when you go to the interview, you need to prepare the recorder, audio recorder. One is the audio recording is the essential requirement for the interviewees, for the interview. Why? We need to try, Dr. Bسمة will talk about this, and we need to transcribe their sentences one by one to the text. So hopefully in Iraq, I know it's a clear, it's a new, I can say it's a new method. People are not familiar with it, maybe not comfortable to be recorded, and we face this challenge. Some participant, physician, pharmacist, they are not familiar, and when we ask them, we need to record you, audio record you, they deny. Why? Because they are not comfortable to be recorded. Unless they trust you and they know you, that's why you need to introduce yourself. I'm a master student, for example. I'm a graduate student. I'm a researcher from the University of Baghdad College of Pharmacy or from the other. So they give them some comfort when you introduce yourself. This is one way so they can accept to be recorded. So the record should be confidential, should be only used for the research purpose, and you should have their consent verbally at least to be recorded. You cannot start recording without taking their consent. And also sometimes you need to first of all introduce yourself, introduce the objectives of the interview, and you need to ask them one by one and give them enough time to answer your questions, and you can answer follow-up questions. Keep in mind, if they deny the recording, you should take notes. All the time you should take notes. But if they deny the audio recording, the taking notes should be faster, because you need answers word by word, which is very hard, I know, and it needs people who can write quickly. Consent, we need to have their consent, and sometimes, or for my perspective, we don't need to ask them about their names. Keep their names anonymous. So we need to avoid taking their names in the recording. Sometimes we ask them about experience years, about their position, but not names, because, you know, for confidentiality purpose, we need to avoid this. The second type of data collection, which is the focus group, usually meet people. As you can see in the picture, we can have 5 to 12 people. We did it in the substandard falsified project. We met with 5 pharmacists from one well-known pharmaceutical company. The interview doesn't have to be in person. It could be over Skype, over Zoom, over phone sometimes. But in person, it's the better, because you can watch their non-verbal communication. You can see to their faces when you ask them. Focus group is different than one-to-one interview. One-to-one, there will be no discussion between groups. So you ask this person, this participant, about his or her experience without communicating with others. The good things with the one-to-one, this person can talk freely without any pressure from the peer or the manager. Imagine for the focus group, it's not good to have this the chief or the director or the boss with his employee at the same table, because people may be afraid to talk if their boss is sitting. So this is the cons of the focus group. But the good things from the focus group, they have communication among the groups. They can answer each other. They have discussion. They have feedback. Someone say the substandard falsified, the most common cause is there's, for example, because there's not enough registered medications. The other will answer. They say, no, we have such experience in our. So this is the good things. You hear from people, talk normal way to have feedback, and you must have control over the discussion. You should have facilitator. You are the facilitator. You may have note taker person, and you need to comfort your participant, and sometimes you need to give them the interview guide, and you need to always you need to have control over the discussion. You don't want to, when you ask about substandard falsified, someone will go for other topics. So you need to bring the discussion back to your topic. This is depends on your experience. So it's not easy to keep them in the loop. Don't distract them. At the same time, it's better to listen and try to avoid interruption. You need to be a good listener. You need to not intervene or be biased. That's me. Somebody will say the main reason is because there will be not enough registered medication. I say yes, I agree with you. Don't give your opinion. You should be impartial. You should listen. Don't give your opinion. Just say okay, and write your answer, their answer. Don't give your opinion because you are not, should not affect. So use the right part and purpose. Something you need to record your interview and focus group, and you need to take notes. So when you go interview, you need to take your recorder. Sometimes you have to take 2 recorders instead of 1 if one is not functioning. And you need to have, for example, formal attire so people can trust you, and you need to introduce yourself, and you need to ask your questions clearly, and you can repeat your question sometimes if it's not clear. For Iraqi participant, usually you may accept both answer in Arabic and English. Sometimes we need to warm up the group, ice-breaking questions, or some introduce themselves to others. Try to do something to ice-breaking. And these are the main tips. The topic is large. I cannot cover it in one lecture, but hopefully we can give you some tips here. I prefer open-ended questions, semi-structures. How do you think about them talk? Tell me about time when you experience substandard falsified. Describe your interactions with substandard falsified medicine. When do you attribute this experience? What might be example of your describing? So let them talk. These are open-ended questions. In-depth interview, I need to listen to their experience. Listen, good listener. Stop, interrupt them unless they go outside the topic and you have no time. You should you need to have time management. You have only 30 minutes. So try to ask all your questions in this meeting. Don't spend all your time so you need to have balance between interruptions and collecting your information. As we mentioned, the one-to-one is good because we have non-verbal communication as well. And these are some tips from the course I took at the University of Iowa College of Public Health about communicating with community. We usually use who, what, when, where, how, and why questions. These are open-ended questions. We try to, sometimes we need to repeat our questions. So our question should be clear, and don't give your opinion, and be sensitive to the culture. Sometimes people, they are from different culture, so be careful if they are from different culture or they have different language. So be careful, be sensitive to their culture, respect them for sure, and sometimes we need to affirm them, say, okay, I see, I got your point. Some you are listening. before maybe I finish this, I need to give you some example about the type of sampling we use. As you know, we have different type of sampling. For the quantitative, we usually use probability sampling, which is random, simple random sampling, or cluster, or stratified, or systemic. This is quantitative. For the qualitative, we usually use non-probability sampling, such as convenience, quota sampling, or snowballing, or purposive sampling. Purposive, that means we select people who are expert in the field. For example, they have working at the 5 years experience with the biosimilar or biological medications. Snowballing, when we meet this person, at the end of the interview, we ask them, do you think your colleague in this hospital, they can meet us or participate? So they say, okay, check with Dr. Ali, check with Dr. Hussein. He may be able to meet you. So this is the snowballing. It starts small and gets bigger when it comes down the hill. So this is snowballing. You can ask them to recruit or to refer you to other participants. And we also, these are the most methods, snowballing and purposive. Sometimes we use convenience sampling for findings, but those are the experts in the field. Those we selected them for their criteria. They are expert, they have enough experience in the topic, they can talk about this similar or biological, for example, medications. So we select them who have the experience. We select them, as you can see here in this picture. This is the purposive sampling. I want to warn you, we have different terminology in qualitative. In qualitative, we use content validity. When we validate the survey, we use content, we use reliability, we use test, retest, internal consistency, reliability. We are not using these terms in the qualitative. In the qualitative, we use another way of validation. There is no time to talk about them, but I just want to introduce the terms: credibility, transferability, dependability, confirmability, triangulations. So these are new terms they used in the method. In the method, we call it thematic analysis, different method. Before I finish my presentation, I just want to give you overview of this qualitative study we have done. I have done a master student here about the Pharmacovigilance Center at the Ministry of Health. We have which is the first qualitative study in our department. So it's about the experience of pharmacists and physicians at the Iraqi hospital, about their experience with biopharmacy and effectiveness of biosimilar and biological medications. We selected healthcare providers who are experienced in this study, and we separated the study into two manuscripts, one for the physician. As you can see, it's published in Exploratory Research in Clinical and Social Pharmacy, and the other one, experience with the pharmacist experience. It's published in the Iraqi Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences. It's our college journal. The sample size here was large. Like I remember, it's 36 for the physician and something in 20s for the pharmacist. So this number is really large number for qualitative. To have 30 something or to have 20, it's considered large sample size for qualitative, but at the same time, it's considered low sample size for quantitative. We are not doing quantitative, so it's not limitation. It's part of the study to have small sample size, and we stop data collection after we reach saturation point. After we reach, there will be no new information. You can stop your data collection. So we met 5 physicians from each discipline. We met them, interviewed them, and we reported their responses. This is the second manuscript, the experience of pharmacists about the biopharmaceutical medicine, effectiveness, safety, and adverse drug events in Iraqi hospital. Sometimes we need to use both quantitative and qualitative, which is called mixed method, as we did with Dr. Mary Ray at the University of Iowa, with Dean Assistant at that time. We had open-ended questions at the end of the survey. This one didn't include interviews. It was open-ended question at the end of surveys. People just wrote their comments there, the participant, and we took these open-ended answers and we analyzed them by thematic analysis. So we talked about the social isolation of healthcare sciences called students. As you can see, the table include primary theme, sub-theme, and the code, or the selective codes. That means we need to have, Dr. Bessma maybe talk about this. We have general theme, we have some theme, we have some example. We don't have numbers, we don't have p-value, we don't have statistical analysis. One of the faculty member who participated in the defense of HIPAA, he asked her, do we have any statistical analysis? Do we have p-values or something? At least you need to. So it's not familiar. People, they are not familiar with it, so they may get surprised. They cannot find numbers. So this is one of the output about the factors influencing social isolation. We have other mixed method about substandard falsified MENA high diploma students, and we interviewed the pharmacists at the pharmaceutical companies before we did the survey with the general pharmacists. As you can see this table. This is one output or findings. This is, we sometimes use term findings instead of results. So the findings of this study, as you can see this table, the theme, sub-theme, and the code each participant, exactly what he or she said answering. So these are example of the qualitative output. Dr. Kauthar and our team, Dr. Shahab, Dr. Mohammed Kamil, we had the mixed method study. Dr. Kauthar interviewed the Iraqi pharmaceutical industry representative at that time about their experience and their challenges, and towards mixed method study had qualitative then quantitative. So mixed method, sometimes we use qualitative alone. HIPAA study is qualitative alone. The other studies, those are mixed methods. As you can see, the same thing, theme, sub-theme, representative codes. For the sake of time, thank you so much. Let's give the podium to Dr. Bessma, and if you have questions at the end, I will be happy to answer your question. Thank you so much, Dr. Bessma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali, for this nice introduction to qualitative research. Now I would like just a minute to share my screen. I'd like first to introduce myself. Yeah, is it obvious now? Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dr. Bسمة Zahir Al-Mutwali. I'm a faculty member at the College of Pharmacy, University of Baghdad, Department of Clinical Pharmacy. So this evening, I would like to talk a little bit about qualitative data analysis. مثل ما تفضل زميلي دكتور علي، ما راح نقدر نغطي التوبيك تماما، لكنه I'll try my best to give a better understanding, or at least an overview of how qualitative data can be analyzed. This session will cover about, I'll talk about characteristics of qualitative data analysis in a brief thing. I'll also show you some approaches to qualitative data analysis, and I will give some details about thematic analysis. I hope that you will enjoy the time with me. So I think Dr. Ali had some overview of what is the kind of qualitative data analysis. So the first characteristics in qualitative data, and we analyze them, is that it does not start with hypothesis. It's not like a quantitative research. We have a null hypothesis and then we test it and we either reject it or accept it. Here, with the qualitative data, we do not have a hypothesis. The data is generated from the text that we have. Also, we have no tests to apply to the data. We do not have statistical tests to apply to the data. It's more generalized, like we have coding and categorizing of our data because it's just text, spoken data. The other thing is that we do not have one agreed way to analyze data. We try. Every researcher will choose the way that best answer the research question. So there's no agreed way to analyze the data. So our aim when we analyze the qualitative data is to generate meaning and understanding of the phenomenon under study. We are here in the qualitative study. We are exploring, we are not more investigating, we are more exploring in depth how people perceive their situation, how people feel about their situation. So we have only like words, and we need to generate a meaning of these words, and we need to understand the experience of people through these words. Then we have the methods of a qualitative data analysis. In fact, we have several ways, like for data analysis, we have grounded theory, we have thematic analysis, content analysis, discourse analysis, narrative, and we have interpretive phenomenological analysis. The basic of almost all kinds of qualitative data analysis is coding, and then we're categorizing our data. So this evening, I would like to shed some light on thematic analysis because it is the most commonly used method because it covers a wide variety of research questions and topics. Thematic analysis is defined as a method of identifying and analyzing, reporting patterns or reporting themes within the data. Thematic analysis organizes the data and provides an interpretation of the data. So the goal here is we identify themes or patterns in the data that are important or interesting or significant. These themes will address the research or say something about an issue. So it will answer the question. These themes will answer the research question that we started with initially. We have, in order to do the thematic analysis, in fact, we have 6 phases, and I'll try to go through them one by one. So the first phase is familiarization with data. The second phase is generating initial codes. The third phase is searching for themes. And then we go to the fourth phase, which is reviewing themes, and then defining and naming themes. And the final phase or final stage is producing or writing up our report. The first step in the data and thematic analysis is that you need to familiarize yourself with your data. You need to immerse yourself within your data. This step or this phase starts with transcription. As my colleague Dr. Ali started and emphasized the role of recording the interviews or the focus groups. This first step, we need recording. And then after this, we need to transcribe these recordings. So transcription refers to the process of reproducing spoken words اللي حصلنا عليها من الaudio taped interviews into written text. So verbatim بالمقابل, verbatim transcription is word for word reproduction of verbal data. The written words, in the case of verbatim transcription, the written words are exactly the same replication of the words. So this transcription forms a part of the data analysis process. It is something very important. My colleague, Dr. Ali, said that during the interview, we record the data, which is something very essential for the reliability of data analysis. And then we need also to take notes, because all of you, as you know, a human communication involves two parts. It's the spoken words, or the verbal communication, and also we have the non-verbal communication, or the non-verbal behavior. Sometimes you say a word in a certain way, and your non-verbal behavior indicates the opposite of this way. So it is very important that we use a combination of verbatim transcription and the researcher notes of the participants' nonverbal behavior. This is something very important to the reliability, validity, and accuracy of a qualitative data collection. So during transcription, we need to capture how things are said, the way the respondent said these things, to capture things like emphasis, like the speed of talking, the tone of voice, the timing, the pausing. So when you do the transcript, we have some general transcription notations. For example, these square brackets. For example, when sometimes two or more people speak at the same time, so we use these square brackets which indicate that there is overlapping of speech. Sometimes when the participant or the interviewee focuses on something or emphasizes the word, we use underlining, like we write the word and put underline under it. When we write, for example, here we have write the word in capital letters. This means that the word was said in a louder voice, louder than the surrounding. Maybe the participant needs to emphasize something. Also, you see here the 3 H's, and then this one is dot and then 3 H's. So this means the out breath or in breath. So briefly, when we do the transcription, we need to record exactly the same thing that happened during the interaction. Here, I will give you an example why we need these notations. For example, we have this interaction between a doctor and a patient, where the doctor is prescribing paracetamol for viral infection. And here, as you see in the first interaction, the whole sentence without any notations. So the doctor says, I would suggest, yes, paracetamol is a good symptomatic treatment and you will be fine. The patient responds, fine, okay, well, thank you very much. So you think when you read these two sentences, you think that the conversation between the doctor and the patient, goes smoothly, straightforward. But when you add the notations, as you see here, these dots here, and then here the doctor slaps his hands on his thighs, and then he said, and you will be fine. So you see here that there are many pauses during the interaction of them. And then you see the response of the patient. Also, there is some pauses here. And then the patient shrugs his shoulders and laughs. So this means that the patient is not completely happy with this recommendation or with this advice from the doctor. And from this nonverbal behavior of the doctor, slapping hands on thighs, and then he said, and you will be fine. You can tell that the physician is trying to wrap up the conversation and give his advice as quick as possible to the patient. So using the notations and the nonverbal things in the conversation will help you to get a better idea of the situation during the interview, how things were said, how the feelings, the expressions. So this will give you a better understanding of the situation, and this is a very important step in the data analysis. Now we come to the question, who should do the transcribing? When we do the transcribing, it's not only writing the words, but it also involves a close observation of the data. So we hear the recording and rehear it again and listen it again and listen to it again while we transcribe, while we write the words. So this helps the researcher to better understand. This gives him the first step in the data analysis about the codes, the themes that may generate within the analysis. So best way is that the researcher to transcribe their own interview data. And the most important thing is to transcribe as soon as possible after the interview, so that the researcher will remember what exactly happened during the interview. But on the other side, transcribing takes a long time. It has been estimated that for every hour of taped interview or recorded interview, we need about 6 to 7 hours of a transcription. So it's really time consuming and also effort consuming. بالحقيقة بالخارج توجد أنه إما أشخاص هم skilled to transcribe data أو ممكن تكون شركات متخصصة، لكن يبقى أنه هو الريسيرشر هو اللي يكون عنده الإكسبيرينس في هذا المجال، هو يعرف ما هو الريسيرش كويستشن. فهنا البنفيت should be weighed whether to we hand our transcription to someone skilled or we do the transcription by ourselves. Now we go back to our first phase of the analysis after we have talking about the transcription. After we finish the transcription, we need to read and read and read the transcript. We need like 5 to 6 times of reading, and this needs to be active reading. We need through reading, we need to start take notes. We write our general idea about the transcript. Maybe we need at this phase, maybe we start with early coding. Maybe we have initial ideas about what themes we have. So reading and reading and reading of the transcript is very important at this stage. The next step is that we generate our initial codes. So coding involves identifying interesting features of the data systematically across the entire data. الكودينج راح يعطيني ما هي الأفكار المميزة، ما هي الفيتشرز المميزة، الانترستينج المهم throughout the transcript. We compare by using the coding بين ال participants, we identify similarities and differences in the data. This participant said like this, but the other participant said something different. So, or maybe he said the same thing about this particular question or about this particular idea. So at this stage, we will start to generate our initial codes. The next step or the next phase is that we will start to search for our themes. In this phase, we will organize our codes into themes. Analysis at the broader level. We will start also to build a hierarchy for the themes, and we will look if we have interrelated or overlapped theme. A theme by itself is a pattern that captures something significant or interesting about the data or the research question. The themes need to be coherent, they need to be logical, and they should be distinct from each other. Each theme is distinct from each other. The next phase, we need to review our themes. So this stage has two levels. When I review my theme, I need the first level, I need to review my data at the level of coded data. يعني أرجع إلى الcodes اللي أنا أصلاً سويتها بالبداية and reread all of it and see if these codes really fit into that theme or not. So after checking that our codes fit into our themes, we move to the next level, which is reviewing at the level of theme. Here, we may be, some themes are removed, some themes may be rearranged, some codes may move to another theme, some themes may be merged together. So this level is very important for the reliability of our data. We review our theme. So to help us to review our themes and codes, we need to do a mapping of our data. So you see here, we have first codes that are collected together, and then we generate some description of the theme, and then we collect them into the theme. And here also we have a map of the themes. This is called thematic map. This helps us to see what themes that we have, what codes or maybe sub-themes that we have here, how these themes relate to each other, and how codes relate to each theme, how each sub-theme relate to each other. So thematic map is very important to review our themes. The next step is the next phase is that we need to define and name the themes. We have got themes, and then now at this stage, I need to define it. I need to give a name to these themes. So at this point, we have to answer the following, like these questions. First, I need to know what is each theme about? What is it this theme is talking about? And then I need to think what data that I have which supports each theme. Do I have sufficient data for each theme or not? And then also we need to know what does the theme tell us? What it is, what the story behind this theme? And if there are sub-themes, how do they interact with each other? And how do they relate to the main theme? And finally, how do the themes overall relate to each other? The final phase is that we produce our report. Usually, this is the end point of each research, whether qualitative or quantitative, is that we need some kind of report. Either it may be a journal article or a dissertation thesis. This report will tell the story of the theme. We will tell each theme, what it is about, what the story comes out of it. We need to provide evidence for each of these themes, and we need to build an argument like we do our discussion for quantitative research. And then with this argument, we answer our research question. Here, in fact, I would like to share with you, give you an example of how qualitative data is presented in the research. Here, I have an example of a qualitative study that explores the experience of adolescents who have depression and their views, their experiences with selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So I need to see what is their experience. So when we write qualitative research, you will always see views, experiences, and maybe thematic analysis. And when we go to the study aim, you see explore, views, experiences. So always you will find these expressions with qualitative research. So all the report or the journal article starts, or the thesis starts with introduction as usual, and then we have the methods, and we need to justify why we have chosen these methods. And here I need to focus on presentation of data. So sorry, if you can see here the thematic map. This is a very nice way where the authors have presented their data. So they have 4 themes, and these themes have sub-themes here. So the first theme here is that it is named a perceived threat to autonomy. In this theme, the adolescents perceived the medication is as a threat to their autonomy. So we have sub-theme here, a fear of dependence, and then here a sub-theme, a desire for self-determination. They need to be self-dependent and manage their disease without a drug medication. So, and here we have our codes or categories here. Also, the second theme here, a support, not a solution. They perceived the medication as a support, is not a solution of their condition. And then the third theme, sorry, a sign of severity. And then it's an ongoing process of a trial and error. So this thematic map helps us to see how themes are related to each other, how each sub-theme is related to the main theme. When we report qualitative data, so as you see here, there is a theme. We give our argument and description of the theme, and we need to support, as I said, we need to support our claims with something. In a quantitative research, we support our evidence. Our evidence is numbers, the results of the statistical analysis. But in a qualitative data, we have quotes from the participants' interviews that support our claims or our description of the data. You see here the name Talia. This is a pseudonym. Confidentiality is reserved for the participants. So as we go, as you see here, these always the quotations that support our argument. This is one way of presenting the data. I mean, the quotations are within the text of the results section. Another way, the quotations are put in a separate table, and I think my colleague Dr. Ali has provided you with examples. Here we have a paper, a research article about the impact of drug shortage on patients, and here you see again the thematic map. Here we have here patient-specific views, and we have the healthcare professionals' view, and here we have an overlapping theme between the patients and the healthcare professionals. So we have an overlapping. Both patients and healthcare providers, they said the same thing about the impact of medication shortage on a drug, medication shortage on patient. So we see here, there is theme, impact of medicine on shortage on patients. We have sub-themes, the clinical impact, the humanistic impact, and the financial impact. So you see, the sub-themes all work together to put themselves within one theme. And here we have the codes or categories, and the quotations are put in a table, not within the text. This is a second way of presenting our qualitative data and our argument. And then we go to the discussion section. As usual, we discuss our findings and support them with evidence required. I would like, I hope that I have given a brief idea about thematic analysis. You know, it is a very wide field and which we cannot cover, but at least we gave some points. And thank you very much for your time. If there are any questions, we will be happy to receive them. Thank you.
السلام عليكم، شكرا جزيلا دكتورة بسمة. إذا عندكم بدون زحمة أسئلة ممكن تكتبوها بالشات، إذا ممكن كتابتها بالشات طبعا. إذا عندكم أسئلة دكتورة فادية تحبين تكتبين، تفضلي دكتورة فادية. يعني ما أعرف، هو يمكن دكتورة سليمة مسؤولة عن
دكتور علي موجود، المايك مفتوح، كل المشاركين يقدرون يفتحون المايك.
اوكي ماشي، عاشتي لي دكتورة. ماشي، فإذا تحبون المشاركين تكتبون السؤال، وإذا تحبون ترفعون ايديكم. دكتور جعفر يقول، دكتورة فادية ما أعرف تقدرين تفتحين المايك.
السلام عليكم.
السؤال دكتور جعفر. سلام دكتورة، تفضلي.
شكرا جزيلا. طبعا محاضرة جدا يعني very interesting topic، ويعتبر طبعا qualitative studies يعني حاليا بالعالم كلش من البحوث اللي يعني او اللي خلينا نقول الاوبشن اوف ستدي اللي هو شويه بعده ضعيف بالعراق. بس انا عندي يعني two questions لك وسؤال للدكتوره بسمة. بالنسبه انت ذكرت بالفوكس جروب انه يعني الافرج يكون من 5 الى 12 خلينا نقول individuals، ممكن يكون اكثر من هذا العدد؟ وشنو الديزادفانتج اذا كان اكثر؟ هذا
والله
السؤال.
هم خالين هذا الرينج، لانه اكثر من 12 يتوقعون انه تفقد انت كانترفيور، تفقدين السيطره على الانترفيويز، لانه حتصير بين قوسين هوسه ويجوز بينك في وقت. فاعتقد ما تكون مانجبل، هي الفكره ما تكون مانجبل. فخالين 12 از ماكسيموم. انا اتذكر من التقينا انا ومينا 5 من الممثلين مع شركات الادويه، 5 اخذونا يمكن ساعتين، 5 لان كل واحد اذا تريد انت تطيع يحكي. طبعا نفس السؤال هو يفتر على الكل، سؤال نفس واحد يجاوب، بعدين ترجعين السؤال الثاني يفتر على الكل. فانت تصوري اذا عندك فد 10 اسئله وكل مشارك يحتاج له فد ربع ساعه، اعتقد ما راح تقدرين تغطيهم او تعطيهم بالكل، فما ينصحون بيها. يعني انا هذا شفت الستاندرد 12 ماكسيموم بالكتب، يعني دا شيء يعني هو ماكو شيء ما يصير، بس اعتقد بهذا الدروباك لانه you cannot يعني control it or manage. فهذا يمكن سؤال دكتور. اكو سؤال اخر؟ اكو
السؤال الثاني عاده هسه يعني هو كوانتيتيف ستدي، خصوصا مثلا بيستخدمون الميديكيشن بردن خصوصا طلاب الماستر، هي عباره عن يعني كويستشنز اوريدي موجوده، يعني موجوده وضمن خلينا نقول ريفرنس معينه، بس عاده بيستخدمون تيرم احنا سوينا فيس تو فيس انترفيو. هذا التيرم احنا نعرف الانترفيو هي يعني فور كواليتيف ستدي، انترفيو هي يعني هي كوانتيتيف ستدي، بس يقولون احنا بنسوي انترفيو. هم يعني هل لهم صح نستخدم هذا التيرم الانترفيو؟ لان مجرد انه هي اسئله ودة النطي، ممكن يعطوها سيرفي اونلاين، ممكن تنسال الشخص. هل صحيح استخدام هذا التيرم؟
هذا خوش سؤال، عشتيلك سؤال مهم. مرات نستخدم مصطلح انترفيو. الانترفيو ممكن يكون ستراكشرد انترفيو اللي هو بارت من السيرفي. يعني انا ممكن السيرفي مالتي مكان ما انطي الكترونيكلي او انطي بيبر، اخابر بيشنت او مشارك واقرا واساله. ستراكشرد انترفيو هذه يصير له ستراكشر اللي هو نفس السيرفي، سؤال جاوبني، هذه يصير له ريسيرش ادمنسترد كويشنير اللي هو ستراكشر انترفيو، اللي هو مو كواليتيتيف. ما طول انت نوعيه الاسئله عندك جاوبني، اختار واحد من ذني، هذا صار ستراكشر ما بي اوبن اندد كويشنز، هذا يدخل بالكوانتيتيف. فممكن نستخدمه، بس نستخدمه انه فون انترفيو تو ادمنسترد كويشنز او يسموه له ريسيرش ادمنسترد كويشنير. مو احنا عندنا سيلف ادمنسترد وعندنا ريسيرش ادمنسترد. احنا ممكن بالبيشنت من الصيدليه نقرا له الاسئله ويجاوبنا، هذا هو انترفيو بس ستراكشر انترفيو، فهذا كوانتيتيف. بالمقابل سماي ستراكشر انترفيو اللي هو هذا tell us about your story, tell us about experience. أرجو أنه أكون جاوبت على سؤال. شكرا جزيلا.
تمام، شكرا.
أستاذنا الدكتور غازي تفضل. شكرا جزيلا دكتور فادي على الأسئلة.
شكرا.
تفضل دكتور.
شكرا. السلام عليكم.
أنا العفو. السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. العفو دكتور غازي.
دكتور علي
بس يمكن لا بالعكس. لا بالعكس دكتورنا تفضل.
الوقت
اوكي واضح. تفضل دكتور.
شكرا دكتور علي، شكرا دكتورة بسمة، وشكرا دكتورة سليمة ووحدة التعليم المستمر، وشكرا للعمادة. حقيقة يعني من الصعب الإلمام بهذه المحاضرة القيمة عزيز دكتور علي. أكون صريح وياك، المعلومات الموجودة بالمحاضرة هذه يعني كل جديدة على أغلب الناس، وعلى أني بالذات أقول لك إياها. تعلمت منك الكثير من دكتورة بسمة، بس اسمح لي أقول لك نقطتين أو أكثر نقطة أخرى إلى الدكتورة بسمة. ركزت على خلينا نقول الكاريزما، وركزت على مظهر الشخص المحاور بالدراسة. هي معناه أنه الدراسة دقة النتيجة أو مصداقية التحليل اللي تقوم به يتأثر بشخصية الشخص المحاور وطبقة صوته ومظهره وطريقة إلقاء للأسئلة والحوار اللي يدور بيناتكم. هذا الجزء الأول من السؤال. الجزء الثاني حتى تكون سريعة، الجزء الثاني، هل ممكن أنه تستعمل هذه الدراسة وهذه الطريقة، وأنا أشيد بجهودك والبحوث المنشورة بتقييم البحوث، العفو مو تقييم المنهاج الدراسي في كلية الصيدلة، وتقييم الأداء التدريسي لأعضاء الهيئة التدريسية على نفس المستوى اللي تقمت به هاي البحوث مع الصيادلة. والسؤال إلى الدكتورة بسمة إذا سمحت. دكتورة بسمة، أنا صدقت يعني كلش أنه هذا العمل بجهد من تقولين ساعة حوار ترانسكريبشن يكون 6-7 ساعات، كلام صحيح هذا، لكن هل ممكن أنه تكونين تلجئين إلى الآلية الترانسكريبشن، استعمال المترجم خلينا نقول ترانسكريبتر الآلي اللي هو يوضح لك إياها؟ وهل من ممكن أن تلتجئين إلى الفيديو بدل ما تحاولين تكتبين كل كلمة، حتى تشوفين أنه الإكسبريشن، الفيشل إكسبريشن على الشخص اللي هو يدخل ضمن التجربة؟ وفي كل الأحوال أشكركم مرة ثانية لإتاحة الفرصة لي يا أخواني.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور غازي على الأسئلة. دكتورة بسمة يعني تفضلي تجاوبين على الأسئلة.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور غازي على سؤالك. حقيقة سؤال جدا مهم. بالحقيقة الترانسكريبشن هو جزء ضروري من الداتا اناليسيس، هو جزء لا يعني مهم، يعني يجب ان يكون، سواء هو كانت الانترفيو، سواء هي كانت اوديو ريكوردد ولا كانت هي فيديو ريكوردد، بكل الاحوال يجب ان تتحول الى ترانسكريبت ريتن ووردز. يلا تبدي انه عمليه الداتا اناليسيس. هناك انه السوفت وير اللي اكو عندنا، يعني اكو سوفت ويرز هي تساعدنا بالكودينج، لكنه مو سوفت وير هو يسوي لي الترانسكريبشن. اكو اشخاص يعني بالخارج، انه اكو شركات او اشخاص معينين يسوون الترانسكريبشن، لكنه مو دائما يحبذ، انه لانه شخص هو يعني مثلا انا باختصاص الصيدله ودا اسوي الريسيرش مالتي على التوبيك، فاني اعرف الكويستشن مالتي، انا اعرف شلون دارت الانترفيو بيني وبين البارتيسيبنت. ف يعني المفضل انه يكون مثلا الريسيرشر، لكن فور تايم سيفنج هنا ممكن ان ينطوا لي اشخاص هم يعني بالامور المكتبيه يكونون مور سكيلفول حتى يسوون الترانسكريبشن بصوره اسرع. يبقى this against this، يعني هو weighed by the researcher. انا لما سويتها حقيقه الكواليتيف ريسيرش من خلال بحث الدكتوراه، انا اصلا كنت اخذ اسبوع حتى، مو انه 6-7 ساعات بالترانسكريبشن، لان كانوا البارتيسيبنتس هم انجلش لانجويج سبيكرز، وكلش صعب انه يتكلمون كلش بسرعه، فلما الحق انه اكتب يعني كل ثانيه من الريكورد اني اطول بيها يمكن 10 دقائق او ربع ساعه حتى انه دا اسوي الترانسكريبشن بالطريقه المطلوبه. بس انه مع ذلك انه لازم انه انا اسويها حتى انا خبرتي اني بالموضوع تكون اكثر. فاتمنى اكون جاوبت على سؤال حضرتك دكتور علي.
بالتاكيد. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور بسمة. شكرا دكتور غازي. بضيق الوقت دكتوره كوثر يعني تفضلي.
السلام عليكم وشكرا جزيلا دكتورة بسمة على هذا الموضوع اللي هو خلينا نقول under estimated. عندنا أهميته ويعني الكواليتي معناته. بس تعقيبا سؤال دكتورة فادية، يعني ذكرت إنه هي ممكن تكون structured interview و researcher administered structured interview. زين هذه يعني شلون نسوي ديلينيشن بينها وبين الانترفيو اذا البارتيسيبنت نفسه بدا شلون نقول احنا يستفسر اكثر ويسولف اكثر، لانه بالسيلف ادمنسترد هو عنده اجري ديس اجري يس نو، يعني هذا الليكرت سكيل. بس ممكن بالانترفيو حتى اذا هو يعني الريسيرشر دا ينطيها يبدي البارتيسيبنت مثل ما نقول احنا يسولف. زين هاي السوالف مالته وين راح تروح بعدين؟ يعني هل راح يصير ميكس ميثود؟ هل انت يعني شلون ممكن يوقفها الريسيرشر بحيث يبقيها هي ستراكشرد انترفيو؟ شكرا جزيلا.
عاشتي دكتوره، هذا سؤال كلش مهم. احنا مثلا بالبحث مع دكتوره ميري بالجامعه ايوه بوقتها من سوينا سيرفي مع طلاب المجموعه الطبيه جامعه ايوه، خلينا اسئله كلها ستراكشرد اللي هي سيلف ادمنسترد، وبالاخير تركنا سؤال يعني tell us about your experience. فلقينا الناس بدأت تحكي وتكتب جمل تعبر عن الاكسبيرينس مالتها. من جينا نحلل احنا بالبدايه ببالنا انه هو سيرفي، يعني هي بوقتها استعانت فيها دكتوره ميري، ما كان عندها خبره بالموضوع، بالميكس ميثود ما كان عندها خبره، فاستعانت فيها المشرف مالتي رشحني انه اساعدها. فرحنا السيرفي عندنا ارقام حللناه طبيعي statistical analysis، جينا على الكومنتس مال الطلاب ما ممكن تتحلل quantitatively، فلجأت الى thematic analysis، وبالتالي اجبرنا، هي مو اجبرنا، احنا كان عندنا وقت انه نسويها ميكس ميثود. فشفت انا قلت لها الدكتوره ميري، قلت لها ترى هاي الداتا حرامات تروح، يعني كميه معلومات، يعني مثلا من تقولي له عندك سوشيال ايزوليشن لا يقول لك اي ولا. لقينا انه اكو ناس قالوا ما عندنا سوشيال ايزوليشن، يعني هاي العزله النفسيه، وبالتالي من يروح على الكومنتس يحكي انه هو بعيد عن اهله وبعيد عن اصدقائه او ترك المدينه اللي كان بيها، فتلقيه يحكي معلومات شخصيه، يقولها I'm not a human, I cannot cook, I don't have time، تحسيه يحكي شغلات بيرسونال تتاثرين بيها. فقلت له هاي المعلومات مستحيل نفرط بيها. لجأنا شاف عندنا وقت انه نخليها ونسويها بميكس ميثود. بس انت اذا عندك سيرفي وتريدين تقابلين بيشنت او مراجع او واحد بالصيدليه وما عندك وقت تسويها ميكس ميثود، انت ممكن هذول كلهم اجنور ذيم، يعني عندك ستراكشرد اسئله وتسوين تك وخلاص، يعني ممكن تكتفين، انت ما حد يجبرك تاخذين كواليتيتيف انت الا اذا انت بالاوبجكتيفز وحسر وايز، يعني انت ممكن تقولي لي احنا عندنا هاي الاسئله، تختار من 1 إلى 5 اجري ديس اجري سترونجلي اجري ديس اجري وتسوين تك وخلاص. هاي يعني مو كان ما هو يسوي تك. بينما انت اذا كان بالاوبجكتيفز ما انت حسيتي كواليتيتيف اسينشال، لا تجيبهن اخليها واكتبها واسوي لها اناليسيس، شغل اضافي على HE، بس انت تقوين يعني احنا بوكذا كلش قوه الدراسه مالتنا، ونشرت بمجله الامريكان جورنال اوف فارماسيوتيكال اديوكيشن، ولحد الان صار لها اكثر من 30 سايتيشن. ليش؟ لانه قدرنا مو بس ارقام، يعني مشاعر الطلاب مو بس رقم تعبر عنها، قدرنا نسمع منهم شنو مشاكلهم. واحد يقول يعني كليات الصيدله وكليات الطب يقول لك انا ما عندي مجال، ما عندي مجال اشوف اصدقائي، ما عندي اشوف اهلي، انا صوت. يعني هاي واحده من الكومنتات اللي اتذكرها، يعني من سمعين هيك شيء راح يهزك من جوا، يعني تحسين انه لا، يعني اني I listen to their feelings. فشكرا جزيلا، وارجو انه يكون لضيق الوقت نتحرك الى دكتور سيف. يعني تفضل unmute yourself.
Hello everybody. Hi. Can you hear me?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I am Dr. Saif. I'm a faculty member at the College of Engineering, University of Baghdad. I am very pleased to attend today and to hear to your materially. Thank you for your presentations. I have a specific question about the qualitative research or qualitative analysis. Basically, maybe everyone here is asking why I am an engineer, why I'm asking such a question, why I'm here really. Well, it is strongly related to my research because I work on the biomedical field and bioengineering. So we have something in common with your research, really. So the question is, you mentioned a couple of types of sampling, methods of sampling in the topic that you mentioned. So we haven't seen a case study like Dr. Bsmة did. She showed a case study like a conversation between a medical doctor and a patient about a certain transcription, about a certain medication. Can you explain something like this, imitating the situation in terms of sampling, how we can do sampling, how can we do the sampling in such a situation? Is it going to be ahead of the meeting with the patient, or is it going to be during the research? I need more to hear. I need to hear more explanation about this.
Thank you so much, Dr.
My
Saif.
question is clear to you or not? Thank you.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Saif. I think I can answer a question. You need to decide your sampling method before you launch your study. That's mean for usually we use either purposeful or snowballing or both, or sometimes convenience. So it's part of the method. When you write your proposal and you submit your proposal to your scientific committee, you need to decide which kind of sampling. So the sampling for usually why we do purposeful, we need people who are experienced. For example, I need to meet people who are expert in biopharmaceutical medicine. I need to meet people or pharmacists who are experienced on substandard falsified. I need to interview people, pharmaceutical company representative at the national level. So you need to define your target. I need this information. My target will be this. I have an inclusion criteria. I have exclusion criteria. My participants should have 5-year experience in pharmaceutical company. They should be pharmacists working in private sector. They should work for a pharmaceutical company. They should have experience in this field. So you need to set your inclusion, exclusion criteria before you launch your study. So it's not when you start your interview. Interview is just the way of data collection, but sampling methods should be in your proposal, and your proposal should include all the components. It's a smart proposal, as you remember the objectives. Smart, it should be specific, should be measurable, should be achievable, should be specific, should be timetable. So you need to have all these details before you launch, so you be clear. I will meet physicians and pharmacists who are expert in biopharmaceutics. Other than that, when I ask the pharmacist, do you have experience with the biopharmaceutics? If say no, I will exclude this patient or this participant. Otherwise, I can continue. So the first questions, do you have experience? Or you can ask these questions before the interview. Do you have experience? They say yes. Can I have appointment with you? This is the way. Thank you so much, Dr. Saif, for the question. دكتور معاذ أرجو أن أتقدم تكون الأسئلة شوية أقصر لأن شكرا دكتور سيف.
السلام عليكم.
ممنونين. دكتور بسمة ما أعرف إذا عندك أي إضافة. العفو.
شكرا جزيلا.
دكتور بسمة عندك أي إضافة؟ سوري.
لا ما عندي. شكرا جزيلا.
ماشي يعني دكتور معاذ يعني.
هاني دكتور عاشتيتكم بارك الله بكم انت دكتور.
حاضرين.
هو كواليتي يعني هو تشخيص يعني
كواليتيتيف
يعني بعدين واحد ينتقل الى شيء كوانتيتيف يعني هسه
مثلا دكتور مو شرط دكتور معاذ هو سؤالك شنو؟ العفو بس هو اريد اعرف سؤالك عن الموضوع.
هسه مثلا بداوا يسمون كوانتيتيف مثلا احصاء او كذا حتى
هاي كوانتيتيف موجوده سابقا قديما. الجديد هو مو جديد، الاثنين مو جديدات.
قبل المريض هذا كله هو كواليتيف. بعدين اذا يجي باحث يجمع الطابلات ويشوف شو من اللي عنده كذا مجموعهم مش قد اعدادهم مش قد. فهو اساسا يعني من نقول كواليتيف دي شيء مجهول. فشيء ايدنتيفيكيشن تشخيصي. بعدين نقدر نعرف هذا المجهود من هو شنو هو، نقدر ننتقل الى الكوانتيتيف. الكوانتيتيف حيكون هنا متاح، يعني لازم نتعرف عليه مثلا في اولا يعني لاي شيء مرض ديزيز تفاعل مثلا. لذلك يعني ترى كل البحوث القديمه اللي بعدين تاسس عليها هي نعتبرها كواليتيتيف، يعني من اكتشفوا هذا التفاعل او كذا او يعني هو كله عباره عن كواليتيتيف ريسيرش. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور معاذ. هو حقيقه مصطلح qualitative sometimes confusing. يعني شلون؟ يعني اكو تحاليل احنا مرات نصيح لها اذا نريد نسوي يورين اكزام، مرات نجيب هذا الستريب ندخله باليورين نشوفه نيجاتيف وبوزيتيف على اللون، هذا نصيح له كواليتيتيف. مرات في حين اذا نريد نقيس التركيز بالضبط راح نسوي كوانتيتيف مثل ما قال دكتور معاذ. هذا ممكن نستخدم هذا المصطلح. فمرات احنا كونفيوز. زين هي الكواليتيتيف نفسها هاي الكواليتيتيف؟ لا، الكواليتيتيف اللي احنا بدنا نحكي عليها هي ميثودز مبنيه على كلام، مبنيه على محادثه، مبنيه على ليست مبنيه على ارقام. يعني بالمختصر للناس اللي احنا هسه بدنا نحكي ويا وايد رينج، عندنا دكتور سيف وعندنا دكتور معاذ من الكيمياء، فمصطلح الكواليتيتيف كونفيوزنج بالنسبه لهم حقا. يعني احنا قسم من عندنا لحد الان الكواليتيتيف ايش يعتبرها مو ميثودز، لا هي ميثودز. يعني انا على طول طلابنا اقول لهم انا كنت بارتيسيبنت. اي لا مو خل اوضح لك النقطه دكتور، هي جديده شويه علينا كفيلد بالفارماسي العراقي. انا درست الكواليتيتيف بالببليك هيلث ودرستها بالكولج اوف اديوكيشن جامعه ايوه. الفكره وين؟ انا شاركت باطروحه الدكتوراه كمشارك كبارتيسيبنت. اتصور اطروحه الدكتوراه حتى اتذكرها بنيه زينب تركيه كانت هي طالبه، طبعا اخذتنا 5 مشاركين سوت اطروحه الدكتوراه علينا، كل واحد قابلته ساعتين غسلتنا من الاسئله اللي هي بالفيلد. ما تصور انت تروح الدكتوراه مقابله 5 اشخاص اخذت فيها PhD. فالموضوع مال كواليتيتيف موضوع مبني على المحادثه، مبني على الكلام، هو يراد له سكيلز. انا اريد اركز على هالنقطه. هو صح جديد، احنا مرات اندر استيميتد مثل ما قال دكتوره كوثر، انه احنا بعضنا مثلا احنا بوقتها ردنا نقر البحث مال هبه طالبتي، بعض الاساتذه اللي عندنا قال ليش 60 اريد 200 مشارك. ما ينقاس نفس القياس. يعني احنا العدد ما ملتزمين بلارج سامبل سايز، شو وقت ما نوصل ساتوريشن بوينت نوقف. فاذا الكواليتيتيف هي يراد لها سكيلز، يراد لها انترفيو سكيلز، يراد لها شلون تديرين اللقاء، شلون تكتب نوتس مثل ما قالت الدكتوره بسمه. الفيس اللي هي القتها الفيس 2 اللي هو الثيماتيك اناليسيس او الترانسكريبشن والفيرباتم والكودينج. هاي سكيلز يراد لها ساعات تسمع تسوي ثيم وتكتب كود. فحقيقه هذا مجال نقدر يعني هو احنا مو شرط نقيس دم. يعني احنا هذا النوع من البحوث بعد طلعنا من اطار انه اني لازم اقيس دم واني لازم اقيس لاب ديتا يلا يصير البحث. لا اكو بحوث انه ما تحتاج انه اني اريد. يعني هبه اللي سوتها سمعت الاكسبيرينس مال اطبائنا وصيادلتنا بالمستشفيات حول البايو فارماسيوتكس، وقعدت والتقت ب 36 طبيب وب 26 صيدلي وحكوا لها كل شيء من الالف للزي على الريبورت والادفيرس ايفنتس والافكتفنس وبالتالي سوت اسسمنت للواقع العراقي. احنا وين ويا البايو سيميلار. يعني هذا ما ممكن المعلومات تجمعها بسيرفي، ما ممكن المعلومات تجمعها بتحليل، ما ممكن المعلومات تجمعها بلاب ديتا. هاي المعلومات الا تسمعها من الطبيب من حلقه. فدكتور معاذ بالمختصر الكواليتيتيف بدك تحكي عنه انت يختلف عن الكواليتيتيف انا احكي عنه. انت بدك تحكي عن الوان وبدك تحكي عن وصف. انا بدي احكي عن اكسبيرينس وعن بيرسبشن وعن راي يدون مثل ما شوفتكم يا دكتوره بسمه يكتب از تكست. يعني اني انطيك النتيجه تكتب هي رأي الناس، رأي المقابل. دكتورة بسمة إذا عندك أي إضافة عندي.
لا شكرا دكتور علي. بالفعل هو انه الكواليتيف اللي تكلمنا عنه هو يختلف، وهو انه مرات يكون confusing للبيبل مصطلح الكواليتيف. انا فقط عندي دكتورة فادية كتبت سؤالها إلي بالشات انه كان اني person او كان اني researcher do qualitative research. بالحقيقة الكواليتيف ريسيرش يعني هو فيلد واسع. حتى شخص يخوض به لازم انه يكون عنده reading حول الموضوع قبل انه يدخل للتفاصيل. اللي احنا يعني على الاقل انه لازم ناخذ فكره شنو الثيوري behind the qualitative research، شنو هي الميثودز اللي ممكن انه نستعملها، السامبلينج، الداتا اناليسيز، ناخذ عنها فكره. احنا كم يعني موجودين اللي شويه عندنا خبره بالكواليتيف ريسيرش وزملائنا ايضا بالفرع، فبدينا انه ممكن انه نبدي بهالطريق ونساعد. ممكن انه يكون عندنا اذا طلبه الدراسات انه نمشي وياهم ونساعد. لكنه الكواليتيف ريسيرش حقيقه هو يعني تايم كونسيومينج وإفورت كونسيومينج. فلذلك يمكن أنا لحد الآن ولا أي واحد من طلبتي اللي أنا مشرفة عليهم سويت وياه كواليتيف، لأن حقيقة يحتاج أنه المشرف يكون ويا طالب بكل خطوة، أنه ويا الأعداد اللي عندنا شوية هذا الموضوع صعب. أنما لو يكون عندك طالب واحد وتركز وياه ممكن يعني حتى الأدفايس وحتى تكون تمشي وياه خطوة بخطوة، لأن الكواليتيف ريسيرش يعني كل خطوة من عنده كل شيء يعني بحر واسع. كل من الديزاين إلى ما نوصل إلى الأناليسيس هو بحر واسع، فلازم أنه يكون الشخص عنده خبرة بهذا الموضوع. فأتمنى أكون جاوبت عليه دكتورة فادية بالشكل المطلوب.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة بسمة. نستقبل آخر سؤال من بشار غازي طالبنا طالب الماستر اللي عندنا. تفضل بشار.
السلام عليكم دكتور علي دكتور بسمة.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أشكركم على المحاضرة القيمة دكتور. بس حتى باختصار ما أخركم، بالنسبة يعني هسه مثل ما وضحتوا ما شاء الله دخلتوا كل التفاصيل إلى presenting the result. الخطوة اللي وراها ردنا ندي شوية انفساز عليه اللي هو الدسكشن. شلون أناقش الكواليتيف ريزلت؟ احنا متعودين على كوانتيتيف، تجيب دراسات تقول هاي موافقة وهاي مخالفة، بس يعني بشكل مختصر. بينما الكواليتيف تدري يعني فيها ان ديبث، تفاصيل ان ديبث. فشلون راح يعني اقدر اصيغها بصيغه توصل النتيجه للمتلقي؟ وشكرا جزيلا على جميع الجهود المباركه ان شاء الله.
شكرا بشار. والله حقيقه هي ترى ما راح تفرق هوايه. يعني انت الدسكشن احنا كنا نعرف الدسكشن على اولا بري ديسكريبشن او الاوفر فيو للريزلتس مالته. يعني خلي اشوفك في شيء بسيط من البحث هبه اللي نشرناه. ما اعرف راح يطلع هنا، أنا اعتقد يطلع. خلي اشوف هنا هو هذا اي هذا ما ادري اذا اشوفه لو بعد ما بين. اي هو شنو الفكره؟ انت عندك ريزلتس هسه دكتور بسمة قالت لكم اكو نوعين. هذا احنا خلينا بوقتها هاي مثلا اذا تشوف الكودز خليناها بداخل يعني هسه مثل هذا الريزلت هذا هاي هسه كله فايندينجز ريزلتس اللي مثلا هسه هنا عندنا كان السؤال مال مثلا سؤال الاجابه مالته yes but not all biosimilar medicine are reliable it depends on the company. تشوف ده تسمع ممكن نخلي اكثر من كود طبعا. هذا انا سميتهم نفرو 3 نفرولوجيست، يعني انطيته ارقام. قابلنا بوقتها 5 نفرولوجيست كل واحد اعطينا رقم. مثلا هنا انطينا yes some biosimilar drugs have been prescribed that have approval from FDA or EMA such as Zarzio, Vilgrastim or that. انت هنا هذا دا احكي هسه findings. نجي على الدسكشن. انت طبعا لازم تعطي اوفر فيو، تسوي سمرايزنج باول باراجراف، تحاول تعطي اوفر فيو للنتائج مالتك والمين ثيم تذكرهن. بعدين تجي على كل ثيم المذكوره بالنتائج وبداخلها يصير الدسكشن. يعني مثلا احنا اول ثيم كان عندنا الريفرنس biological are well effective with manageable adverse reactions. سوينا summarizing، قدرنا نعرف هذا المين ثيم. بعدين بدينا نقارن بالنتائج السابقه. انت ممكن تقارن بكواليتيف ستدي ممكن تقارنه ويا كوانتيتيف ستدي، ما يمنع انه انت تقارن نتائجك ويا كوانتيتيف ستدي. يعني هو الكواليتيف مو الا ان يقارن بالكواليتيف. هاي كواليتيف احنا نسوي ترانجوليشن، يعني انت ممكن عندك اكثر من سورس كلهن ياكدوا نفس الشيء. يعني هنا من ذكرنا النتيجه عقبنا على العراقي فارماسيوتيكال كانتري بروفايل اللي سويناه بال 2020، النتائج كانت مشابهه، اكو مشكله عندنا او الاطباء مالتنا كانوا وين عندنا مشكله. فاحنا نفس الفكره، عندك سمرايزنج وعندك جاستيفيكيشن. اول شيء انت تحاول انت تفسرها تفسيرك كباحث، بعدين تقارنها ويا البحوث السابقه. يعني انا ما افضل راسا انت تقارنها ويا البحوث السابقه. اول شيء لازم انت تعطيها مينينغفول، يعني تحاول توصفها بشكل مختصر. ليش دا يصير عندك هيك؟ يعني احنا بوقتها من حكينا ليش دا يعتقدون هيك شيء، فطينا اكسبلينيشن بسيط، وبعدين اذا تنتبه سوينا سايتيشن الاكسترنال سورسز. انت ايفنتشولي بالدسكشن لازم تقارن نتائجك، اكو دراسات سابقه بالفيلد، اما تأيدها اما ترفضها واما لها راي اخر. فهي دسكشن اعتيادي، ترى هي دسكشن. انت عندك فايندينجز، مو كان ما تقول اني significant difference، قول المين ثيم هذا. يعني بس مجرد تغير المصطلحات، مو كان ما تقول significant difference والبي فاليو اقل من 0.05 significantly positive correlation، ما راح تستخدم كلمه positive correlation، حتستخدم كلمه المين ثيم، تستخدم الكلمه الاكسبيرينس، السب ثيم. ممكن طبعا المين ثيم تذكر السب ثيم، وتحاول تسوي لها ديسكشن داخلي، فلا تدوخ ولا تخاف من عنده. الديسكشن مالته ممكن يكون دكتوره بس اذا عندك راي يعني
نفس نعم مثل ما تفضلت دكتور. هو اولا مثل ما بالكوانتيتيف اول شيء we need to know explain why، ليش طلع لي هذا النتيجه. البيبر اللي شفتوها عن الادولسنس انه السيلف اوتونومي ثريت اوف ذير سيلف اوتونومي، من تريد تسوي له ديسكشن ومذكورها من كذلك بالبيبر. مثلا هم الادولسنس باي ذير نيتشر هم يدورون على انه يكون هو سيلف ديبندنت، فانه من يكون ديبندنت على اخرين او حتى لو هو كان ديبندنت على دراج نفسه او على ميديكيشن، فهذا يعطي شعور بعدم الامان او انه هو الاوتونومي مالت كينون ثريتند. فهاي من هاي وجهه النظر. وبعدين انه وياها تجي انه تقول فلان الفلاني شاف انه ايضا سيم فايندينجز، بينما اخذ شخص اخر كان عنده راي مخالف. نفس الوضعيه. وايضا مثل ما تفضل الدكتور ممكن انه حتى تسوي مقارنه مع دراسات كوانتيتيف، مو الا تكون شرط كواليتيف. فهاي النقطة انه هي ذا سيم، مثل ما نسوي ديسكشن هنا بالكوانتيتيف نفس الشيء تكون بالكواليتيف we discuss our findings. اتمنى ان شاء الله تكون الصورة واضحة.
ممنون جدا واضح.
شكرا دكتور بسمة. اذا تنتبهون هنا ان الريزلت بالابستراكت ما بيها ارقام، بس مجرد رقم البارتيسيبنت، لا بيها بي فاليو، لا بيها رقم، لا بيها كلمة significant، هي مجرد المين ثيم تحاول تسويه هنا باختصار. اذا تنتبه الابستراكت هذا مال الكواليتيف، فهي اذا تشوفوا انه مجرد انه ما بي اي رقم. اعتقد احنا جاوبنا يمكن